Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 AM 630. WMAL.
7:37 on a Wednesday morning. KT McFARLAND is with us, Fox News national security analyst. We haven't spoken to you since Gadhafi was killed, and now we decided we're going to get out of Iraq. Let's start with Iraq first off. Is it too soon to get out of Iraq, in your opinion?
Well, they don't want us to stay. And President Obama wants out, so I think it's inevitable that we got to go. And whether we go out, in 3 months and 6 months and 9 months and 12 months, eventually you got to take the training wheels off the bike. The question then becomes, well, what happens next? Does Iran try to take advantage of the fact that we're leaving the region, we're leaving Iraq, we're trying to get out of Afghanistan, we're getting out of Libya, we're leaving that part of the region? Can there be a power vacuum? Can they fill the power vacuum?
Can I just ask you one thing about that? They want us out. Do you think that the Iraqi government would have said, yes, it's time for you guys to go, had there been a different administration? I mean, if this administration really wanted to push the issue.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's part of it, but maybe part of it is that they see this administration and the previous administration trying to get out of the region. And they also see their neighbor Iran wanting to have more influence over the Iraqi political environment. So I think that I don't think that makes a whole lot of difference. Plus the fact that really President Obama, despite all the noise, when you look and see what, judge by what I do, not what I say, he's actually doing and carrying out most of President Bush's policies.
I want to ask you about the situation in Libya. I want you to comment on what you think about the passing of Gadhafi, but I got this question that's just nagging me, and I want to get your sense of it. There have been some questions raised about how Gadhafi died. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a tremendous loss to the world that he died, but questions are about how he died, and they're being raised in some quarters around the world. Look, we know there was a Predator drone flying above the scene, circling above the scene as this all took place. In fact, the drone may have even participated in the initial attack on Gadhafi's motorcade. Mm-hmm. Don't you imagine that after that the drone continued to circle above the scene, and that somewhere at the Pentagon there was a videotape of exactly what happened?
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to have it get out for the following reasons. The Libyan rebels have to own this revolution. If it's an assassination that the United States got Gadhafi because they couldn't get Gadhafi, that discredits their whole method of governing going forward. And to me, you know what? It's like somebody breaks up with a guy. A guy breaks up with a girl, and the girl wrings her hands and says, "Well, why if I done this, if I done that? Forget it, move on." And the Libyans need to move on themselves. The Transitional Council needs to move on. Stop using the excuse of, well, we were trying to get Gadhafi, and move on and form a government. Because at this point, everybody in Libya's got a gun. There are a lot of different militias in Libya, and they've all got to be brought now into one unified national government, or Libya's going to start breaking into civil war. And the second thing that we need to worry about with Libya, as opposed to, how many gun wounds in his head, is where are those weapons of mass destruction? Yeah. Gadhafi had maybe the residuals of nukes. He may have some fissionable material. We know he had the shoulder-fired RPGs and the man-pads that can take down helicopters and civilian aircraft, and he's probably got some chemical stuff.
I guess.
Where is that stuff? I hope it doesn't end up in the international arms market, showing up at a city near you in America.
All good and valid points, and I have no love for Gadhafi, and as I say, I think it's passing. But we know, we've seen phone camera video. Right. He was alive.
Right.
And then he wasn't.
Right.
Don't you think that, it could have been, is it appropriate to execute a guy in that situation? Isn't that sort of a war crime?
That's why they should own it. That's their war, their leader, they took him out. Now, if we're having drone strikes on al-Awlaki, we're having drone strikes on other people that we don't like around the world, Gadhafi is the least of the issues to me. I think it's good he's gone. Good riddance. Move on. Sorry, Brian, I know you really want to see.
No, I
delete the video.
Yeah, I just
think you want to see the movie. I think you'll just have to wait.
I don't want to necessarily see the movie, but I think that there is more here than went on that we know than we know, and I think that there's a legitimate reason to know exactly how his life ended.
Well, and I think you raise a bigger point, which is this is a revolution that would never have happened without NATO, without U.S. support, and even without NATO, without U.S. We have played a fundamental and crucial role in the Libyan revolution. Now, you break it, you own it. Going forward, what happens? Are we going to be participating in or helping them to help themselves in the formation of a new government, because the critical moment now is now. I keep saying a revolution is a 3-act play. Act 1, everybody agrees, get rid of the dictator. Act 2 is when everybody starts falling out amongst themselves. And Act 3, can they get it together? We are now in Act 2.
Katie, I want to ask you about the supercommittee. It was set up so that there are triggers if they don't come to an agreement, that certain programs get cut. It's set up so that defense actually takes a larger cut than discretionary spending, at least in proportion.
It was like a poison pill.
Right.
If you guys don't find a solution, it's going to be the end of the world for defense.
Well, now people are afraid, okay, maybe they won't come to a deal. Now they're scared about defense cutting. What's going on behind the scenes and in the defense community? What are people talking about?
Well, people are talking about if this actually comes to pass, what kind of significant cuts are you talking about? I mean, and it's quite clear to everybody, whether you're pro-defense, anti-defense, cut it, don't cut it, is that nothing is going to be achieved at this magnitude by cutting a program here, stopping a weapons system, maybe cutting back a little bit on R&D or cutting back a little bit on training and readiness. These are significant and major cuts, and just getting out of Iraq, just getting out of Afghanistan doesn't get you there. You're talking about major demobilization of the Marine Corps, the Army, major cutbacks in ships, major cutbacks in, say, the nuclear triad. And so I think it's dawning on people, oh, wow, this is going to be a very different American military. It's not going to be to the point of Europe, where famously someone once said about the British military, all they have left are bands and parades. But it won't be that. But it will be a significant and major reassessment of what the United States can do to project power around the world.
Will those cuts include CIA?
The part of the CIA budget is within the Defense Department budget.
But it's quiet.
It's called the black part of the budget.
Right.
You're not supposed to know. I think it would be very difficult. Those will be conversations that will be between Panetta and Petraeus, arguing over who gets what.
I say that because I would imagine with us pulling out of Iraq with the military that the CIA is going to have to play a bigger role in Iraq.
It has long been thought within the defense community, and certainly when I met with Petraeus in Afghanistan in the spring, he talked about it, that we're not going to fight big land wars anywhere. We're not going to fight big land wars in the Middle East. What we are going to do to continue the fight is more special forces, is more covert activity, covert action. And so within that budget, if you see a diminution of the active duty armed forces and cutbacks in the ground forces, Marines, and Army, you will probably not see it, but you will know that they have increased special forces, or at least they've protected the black ops stuff from